So thank you all today for coming to our Meet the Executives event today. I hope you guys have a great time and learn a lot from our guest executive speakers. My name is Jericho, and I'm a development board member, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Just a reminder to make sure you have your camera on and also to mute yourself. Despite that, we still want to keep this event as interactive as possible. So make sure to react, send your comments in the chat, just to make sure we see all your guys' thoughts. Now, before we start the event, I wanted to give a quick introduction to our director of the Center for Leadership, Dr. Jay Barbuto. Dr. Jay Barbuto works tirelessly every day to provide us, the leadership scholars, with opportunities that aren't available to other campuses and other clubs at CSUF Fullerton. We are so appreciative to all his hard work, and I'll now pass it on to him to explain how we connect, develop, and serve.
Thank you, Jericho, and welcome everyone to this exciting Leadership Scholars event. I have to tell you, you are in for such an amazing treat today. I know both of our speakers, Stephen Tran and Troy Underwood. They are both incredible entrepreneurs who are going to share so many insightful points of wisdom. You are in for such a treat. I'd like to tell you about the Center for Leadership. What we do at the center, and everything we do at the center, connects, develops, and serves. That's kind of the three things we stand for. We connect students with industry. We connect industry with our students. Just like today's event, you have a chance to meet these high-level executives, and you'll be able to connect with them and learn from them, because we help you to develop your leadership skills through the programming that we do, the training we provide you, the mentoring we provide you. You will develop your leadership skills. And we also give you opportunities to serve and give back and make a difference in the community beyond just your own selves. And we do that through a series of volunteer opportunities, volunteer efforts, and events. And we're really excited about all of these things. For those of you that are attending the Leadership Scholars event for the first time today, this is an amazingly first opportunity for you. Today is a big day for you, and you should really find every opportunity you can to get more involved in this program. There is nothing in the state of California that even comes close to providing the access and the impact that this program can provide for students. And so with that, let me introduce to you our team. We have an amazing team at the center. We have Rozzy Burkett, who is our program and events specialist. Rozzy oversees the Leadership Scholars program, and she is the champion of this. She also oversees all of our events, and we have a lot of events at the center that run flawlessly thanks to Rozzy. We also have Danya Bari. Danya is our business and community specialist. She is the person that works with the community in everything that the center provides for the community. Our TV show, our consulting services, things like that. We have an amazing team at the center, and our team is here to try to provide the best opportunities for the community as well as the best opportunities for the students. So with that, thank you everyone for being here today. You are in for such a treat. Jericho, I'm going to turn things back to you, and let's get on with this amazing event.
Thank you so much for that, Jay. Now, in addition to the many different events that we offer at the Center for Leadership, we also allow students to be more active with being part of our 5 different Leadership Scholar boards. So after a student attends 3 of our Leadership Scholars events, they can join any of these boards to have a higher impact in the Center for Leadership. For instance, in the Development Board, board members help plan interactive workshops, help develop other leadership skills. The Human Resources Board is also actively engaged in all parts of membership, whether it be initiating new members or counting hours so we can allocate scholarships based on scholar participation in events. Now, the Marketing Board is essential in bringing in new members and spreading the word on these free opportunities that we give to students. The Operations Board is responsible for these Meet the Executives events, and they connect with different executives and host these events for us to enjoy. And last but not least, we have the Community Outreach Board. This board connects with the community and gives us opportunities to give back as scholars. I know right now we're still in quarantine, but this board was actually able to pioneer the Emerging Titans Buddy program, where we help emerging freshmen and kind of navigate the college career. Now, lastly, I wanted to make sure to mention our next upcoming development event, which is an interactive bias training workshop. This will be our first student-led workshop, and we're so excited to have it for you guys today, or for you guys on November 16th. Rozzy will go ahead and send the RSVP link in the chat, so make sure you sign up as soon as you can. I'll now go ahead and pass it down to Adelena, who is a operations board member, and she will go ahead and introduce our first executive guest speaker, Stephen Tran.
Thanks, Jericho. Hi, everyone. My name is Alilene, and I'd like to introduce you all to Stephen Tran, a motorsports entrepreneur and founding and managing partner of Brand Creative Agency, a marketing and creative firm in industrial design for automotives and consumer electronics. He is a Cal State Fullerton alumni, as he earned his bachelor's in business administration marketing in 2013. His passion for cars first sparked in middle school, and after getting an internship in high school, it has stuck with him ever since. He now has 12 years of professional experience in motorsports and marketing. Stephen currently owns 4 companies, which are a tool brand called Genius Tools, a tire company called Century Tires, Brand Creative Agency, and a distribution component called Modern Japan, which sells high-end car parts. Out of the 4 companies, they are currently importing containers and products directly from Italy, Japan, China, Taiwan, and Malaysia. He recalls starting off in his bedroom at his parents' house, and he now has 20 full-time employees and a 30,000 square foot warehouse in Ontario, California. At the age of 26, he got his biggest notable marketing client, Honeywell Transportation Systems, where they currently handle their account globally. One of Stephen's major career building philosophies is to not be afraid of anything. Even if you think that you are not qualified for the position or duties, go for it and figure it out. With this, please give a warm welcome to Stephen Tran.
Hello, everyone.
So Stephen, when did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
So it's going to probably sound wrong and bad, but working for bad bosses. Not necessarily because of money issues or working conditions, but entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. It's a very specific kind of lifestyle that you have to fully encompass and have the right personality for. And for me, it's not being able to pursue what I wanted to pursue. And having bosses where you give them advice, ideas, and wanting to put 80 hours in instead of the 40, and not getting the supplemental support that you need to pursue those things. So yeah, my inspiration was having really bad leaders in my life, and seeing that firsthand and wanting to be more effective and create more change, I think was the reason why I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or at least that was what pushed it over the edge.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to having bad bosses, unfortunately. And then what effective habit do you have right now that you wish you developed earlier?
So I would say that I started my company at 22, and remembering what it was like being 22, and I'm 31 now, 2 things. Waking up early, probably a huge struggle for anybody that's in their mid to early 20s or in the teens. It just doesn't happen unless you're born with a gift. But waking up early, you can get a lot done. If you're exhausted by 10 a.m., it's a fantastic feeling, knowing that you've done a lot that day and you still have a full day ahead of you to accomplish more things. I think the other thing that I would have loved to have gained the habit early on is being consistent. When you're younger, especially being an entrepreneur, there are always going to be boundless amounts of opportunity, exciting things that you can do, and having a consistent schedule that you establish for yourself and so you can consistently grow is something that's incredibly important. And that comes with a lot of having just having the aptitude and understanding that you need to have consistent structure in your life to be able to grow something that's sustainable. When you're youthful, it's like walking through a field of butterflies everywhere. It's really easy to get distracted, but having the aptitude to say, nope, can't do it. Right now is this time, then I've got to do this. Those are the types of habits I think I probably would have wanted a little bit earlier on that took years to develop. And I mean years.
All right. And lastly, what were some of your biggest mistakes that you're actually grateful that you made?
There are plenty. Let me just preface that. There's probably thousands of horrible mistakes, from people to opportunities to failed ventures to failed investments. I think the biggest mistake, looking back at my career, and this is going to be a lot easier saying it now than it would be to somebody that's just starting off, overanalyzing every decision to make. I'm a very data-oriented person. If you've analyzed it to death and you know it's the right call, go for it. Just do it. Fear is a paralytic, and in my life, I'll analyze and cross-analyze things. And I think my biggest mistakes were not making certain moves before, not making the moves because I was afraid to. And then once I did, I realized, wow. And this is an ongoing thing. I constantly have this struggle. You look back and go, man, if I'd done this 3 years ago when I first had this idea, I'd be in a very different place. Or we really should have done this 4 months ago. So my biggest mistake is a constant mistake. It is a constantly reoccurring mistake that I struggle with every day. And that's being over analytical about decisions and causing that to be becoming a paralytic for me. I think is my biggest mistake.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that introduction, and we're so happy to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
I will now pass it on to Jehu, who will be introducing our next guest speaker, Troy Underwood.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jehu Jagwe, and today I'd like to introduce Troy Underwood. He has a passion for entrepreneurship that started after working in technology at IBM. Troy built up his technical skills for a year at IBM, then branched out to spearhead FDI, which revolutionized the title system transfer for the DMV. Troy is a true innovator that breaks into niche markets, then develops cutting-edge software that disrupts the status quo. Troy's next move as an entrepreneur was founding Benefits Connect, a company that provided an innovative approach to healthcare benefits and administration. Troy is the author of the book, How to Launch Your Side Hustle and Start and Scale a Business with Minimal Capital. Without further ado, please welcome Troy Underwood. And I'll pass it back to you, Jericho.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. Same questions that we asked Stephen. Troy, when did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I did entrepreneurial stuff all the way back to elementary school. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, my father was as well, and I just always assumed that's kind of the direction I would go in a very specific, kind of like Stephen, sometimes a bad boss will push you in that direction. So a few years ago, I tried to reach out on LinkedIn to a bad boss and just thank her. I mean, somewhat facetiously, but somewhat seriously, thank you. Had you not been so horrible, I wouldn't have gone off and done this when I did, because sometimes you have a real job for a while. IBM was great, but that was a banking job that I had, and it didn't go as well as I'd hoped. So that was kind of the appreciative of the bad boss scenario.
All right, perfect. And then what was an effective habit that you have today that you wish you developed earlier?
A habit that I have today that I wish I would have developed earlier is to relax more. Don't sweat the small stuff. Some people say don't sweat the small stuff and it's all small stuff. No, sometimes it actually matters. Sometimes you have to do, work a 14, 16, 20-hour day to get something done that if you didn't, your business wouldn't survive. But for the most part, I'm with Stephen also that you don't need to overanalyze everything and don't sweat the small stuff. Enjoy yourself, enjoy the ride. You would just hate to be at the point of retirement, you finally cashed out and then die 2 days later from stress-related, illness or something. So enjoy yourself while you're doing it.
And finally, what was your biggest mistake that you're actually grateful for making?
The biggest mistake that I was grateful for making is sometimes, like Stephen also said, don't overanalyze everything, but sometimes I jumped in a little bit too soon. But, I did that a few times, and I'm actually literally doing it right now. And I could, if I'm not successful in 5 years, I'll beat myself up and say, oh, wow, Troy, you should have analyzed that some more. But I just took a major position in a cryptocurrency art-backed company, which is really kind of outside of my wheelhouse. And I'm more fascinated with anything. So we'll see how that goes, because I did kind of just look at it, analyze it a little bit, watch 20 videos on Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, etc. learned a little bit about art, and put in a truckload of money. So now I'm on the board of directors and one of the bigger investors, and we're going to see if cryptocurrency is everything that, I mean, obviously it's done well in certain circles, but now I'm going to follow it very closely. Worldwide too, so it's really kind of fascinating.
All right. Well, we're super grateful to have you both here today, and I'm excited to keep on learning from your experiences. We will now be transitioning into the Q&A portion of the event. If any of you have any questions for Troy or Stephen, make sure to type them in the chat, or feel free to go under participants and raise your hand, and I'll call you out so you can unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and then of course, ask your question. But to start off the Q&A event, we have a question from Maribel, who has a question for Troy.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Thank you for coming, Trent. My question is, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
My favorite part about being an entrepreneur is doing something that no one else has done. You can think outside the box. To me, I really had no constraints from a box. Even the way I did in the introduction, you heard about the DMV thing. When you're a computer science major and you're always used to using a computer, I was, but the world that I was in at that time, you know, we're talking the 1980s, wasn't used to it. And I'd always just thought, well, how else can that be done? And it wasn't anything that I learned in college. I mean, I did that in high school. I did it in junior high. And it allowed me, being an entrepreneur, it allowed me to be able to always ask that question. And as a software developer too, it's so much fun because you can change your software just by asking the question, well, how can I improve this? Can I improve the speed? Can I improve the user interface, the experience? So I kind of look at even software or your life or your career as long as imagination exists, your software will never be done. So you get to keep on doing new and exciting and wonderful things.
All right. And then next we have a question for Stephen from our board member, Sherry.
Hi, Steve. I have a quick question for you. So where do you draw your motivation to pursue entrepreneurship?
As I mentioned earlier, past work experience. Just as Troy had mentioned, a couple of those bosses that kind of pushed you over the edge to say, well, let's go do something different. The other thing is my parents. My mom's always been pushing the entrepreneurial spirit at a very, very young age, always questioning, do people need this? Or that's a pretty good idea. You should probably try that out or see if you can find some hole in the environment of the market. And she was doing that since I was about 3 years old, 4 years old. So it was kind of ingrained in me. I think the other aspect is my dad is an engineer. He is a man of curiosity who's infinitely curious about everything, and he's kind of been passed that on me. So I find almost anything interesting. If an ant is walking in a weird direction or a weird line, I'll probably stare at it and Google why, that kind of a person. So when you are constantly curious about everything, there's plenty of motivations to draw from, especially when clients give you challenging projects that you've never pursued before. And especially me with what I do, having multiple businesses, it's almost like being a chemist with a chemistry lab. I got to tweak and play with things all day long to see if we can make things better, and making adjustments to businesses is always inspirational and is always motivational because bills are very inspiring, and making those bills less generally helps. So that's where it comes for me.
All right. And our next question comes from Joshua. So feel free to unmute yourself and then introduce yourself with your name and major.
Thank you. My name is Joshua. My major is entrepreneurship and supply chain and marketing, 3 of them. So my question, you kind of already touched on this a lot actually with your answer right now, Stephen, but my question was for either of you. So what do you do if you have the entrepreneurial spirit and you want to start a business, but you have absolutely no idea? Like no business idea, no path forward.
What do you think, Troy? I've got an answer, but.
Well, usually, and I wrote about this in my book, How to Launch Your Side Hustle, usually the problem with entrepreneurs is they have too many ideas. And then they don't know how to narrow it down. You know, it's like a beam of light. if you narrow it down, it's going to make a real fiery impact. If you just have a bunch of light, it's just, you know, not as impactful. But to answer your question, what I did, because I was exactly there, is I just patiently waited. You know, being the Boy Scout, be prepared. I did software development and computer consulting, and I just knew at some point I would come across an idea. I'd see something on the news, I'd see something in the newspaper, I mean, wherever I could get an idea and then go, you know what, I could run with that. So for me, I had a software project I was working on, and the related product to it, I went to the people that were developing it and I said, I'd like to take this and run with it. And they said, okay. So I went in a different direction, but that was what originally started it. So it's kind of just life experiences, but you have to put yourself out there in a position to be receptive to those and then know, okay, when I see it. So, you know, watch 20 or 30 or 50 YouTube videos, do exactly what you're doing now. Talk to other entrepreneurs, talk to successful entrepreneurs, talk to failures. You know, what did you see? What did you like? What did you not like? And once you've heard the story, everyone's story is going to be a little bit unique, but there'll still be some commonality. Find what works for you, but don't try to do what they did if it's not for you. Find something that works for you, because you have to have, I think passion as a word is overrated, because sometimes you actually have to have a solid business model. It's like people are going to say, oh, we're going to drive it completely on passion. Yeah, that's a platitude. You know, all marketing and no substance. Not to disrespect the marketing people, I love them, but you just need to be ready whenever you come across it. But at some point, like I said, to the other side of that is you get too many ideas, don't run with them all. Pick something that you can do, and find the one that maximizes your utility. Don't go with an idea just because it's the easiest, or just because it makes the most money, or just because your dad did it, or, you know, whatever. Find out what is going to work best for you. And utility from an economic sense is maximizing your all around well-being, not just financial, or not just you know, whatever it might be that runs you. So Stephen, on that side, I'm just curious to see what you say on the same question.
So I was exactly in the same position as you. When you're staring at, I guess, the rest of your life, there's always a bunch of options and opportunities. My path, I suppose, was I just tried a lot of things. I think, just like Troy had mentioned, I think the most important thing is to define what you want, what values or what aspects of life that you value, whether that's time, that's control of time, family, what have you, and just attempt a bunch of things. For my life, it started with an internship in high school. I also took a chance, and as Troy had mentioned, you kind of know it when you see it. Drifting as a motorsport, before it was popular, there was a series called Formula Drift in 2006 that initiated. And I happened to know that it was going to be a cool thing just because I was around it. I've been around cars for a long time. And I was interning with a media group, and I told the boss at my boss at the time, can I take the film crew out and film this thing? He had no idea. He was from the Trans Am era, so he was all into racing in the 80s. And he said, I have no idea what this is, but go for it. So I took the crew out, filmed it at the Long Beach Grand Prix. We were covering the celebrity race, filmed it into a demo. Next thing you know, I'm now producing a series going across the US in my senior year in high school. And so now we get this 3-year contract, and now I'm kind of flying around, taking time off school. And then I got bored, and I was like, I don't really like filming. I want to be a part of the action. So I started I applied for a job and became a member of the pit crew. So I was the guy with a gun changing the tires when the car comes in. I got bored of that. And then I just started to gravitate towards the marketing aspects of it, designed a couple of cars, and then ran the operations and marketing for a Porsche team and a GTR team. Got bored of that, and then just and this is probably at a year interval each time this would happen. And I just kind of kept getting bored and said, all right, I want to do this. Oh, actually, building race cars is horrendous. Being a pit crew member is a horrible thing. And then I somehow landed on operations, and then that kind of morphed into marketing, and being the marketing guy for the teams, and networked like crazy until I had enough potential clients, and then I created my own company. So my advice to you is kind of similar to Troy. You do have to wait, be a Boy Scout, be prepared, right? Make yourself invaluable by constantly reinvesting in yourself and your knowledge and your abilities, so that when the right opportunity does come across, that you can grab it and take hold of it and do it. And just as he had mentioned, be realistic. Being an entrepreneur is not only about driving everything with passion, because there's plenty of things I was passionate about, but there are bad ideas and there are things that will not work. You just got to go for it and try it out. And a lot of times you're going to fail, and getting yourself back up is a really important part of that. And remember, there was a guy back years ago that sold pet rocks. Okay, anything can be sold, anything can be marketed. So just keep your mind open and keep your ideas wide and see what comes up.
Going back to Troy, what personality traits do you admire in entrepreneurs that you respect?
Perseverance. If you give up quickly, I mean, you might come across an idea and you think it's great, and then you realize it's not because you found something really, bad about it. That's fine. But usually people give up too quickly. I mean, like they say in sales, you don't close the sale until the fifth or sixth or seventh request. And most salespeople don't even ask for the sale one time. So stick with it. That perseverance will drive it. Again, you have to do a little bit of analysis, maybe a lot of analysis, but not too much analysis, so that you're going, well, I've got a bad idea, but I'm going to stick with it. So there's always two sides to each of those coins. You also have to have, in addition to that perseverance, you also have to have, and don't underestimate this, a lot of self-confidence. You don't really have to have a lot of brains. I mean, it helps, but most real geniuses don't make great entrepreneurs. So don't, if somebody else got a better grade than you in your engineering class or something, don't say, oh boy, they're going to be the entrepreneur and make all the money and invent all the new things. Not necessarily the case. Matter of fact, it's frequently not the case. So don't ever slight yourself because you think somebody else can do it better, faster, cheaper. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a big world. It's a big country. It's a big state. Find something you enjoy doing and that you can make a difference in your market, and go do it.
Thank you for that. And then now for Stephen, we have a question from our board member, Dayton.
Hi, I'm Dayton. I'm a second year and major is finance. And Stephen, my question for you, have you always wanted to be a leader, or was being a leader something you had to get comfortable with to achieve your goals?
So I don't necessarily think, in my personal opinion, I don't think being a leader is something that you kind of pursue or want to be. Maybe politicians might disagree with me. But for the most part, I think it comes out of necessity. And when it comes to leadership, there's two things I've to comment on that. Being a leader is always, it's a bad job. Let's just be real here. It is a rough job. You are responsible for the lives of others. You're responsible for their well-being, their growth and development, as well as your own. And being a leader is unfortunately something that is born from experience. And that's probably the hardest lesson I've learned in the last 2-3 years, is building a team, keeping them together, getting them to run efficiently, and making sure they don't kill each other. Leadership it's a privilege, in my opinion. It is not something that people should strive for. It is a challenge that you need to rise up to. And it is incredibly difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult. Business is actually very easy. It's just adding and subtraction. Buy it for less, sell it for more, keep the between. It's the people aspects and keeping that engine running and keeping everybody happy, keeping everybody motivated and inspired to keep moving. That is insanely difficult. I'm fortunate to have partners that are on the other side of 40 that have the experiences to keep it stable. And they've been a really, really important foundational factor for me. I'm the guy that's going to go out there and try to grab every sale, grab every opportunity, but with age, you get less fire in your belly, I guess, and a little bit more desire for stability and less about growth, but just keeping everything moving. So no, I've never always wanted to be a leader. I think in my life, I've always kind of stepped up to become a leader. in a lot of things, from college other group assignments and things like that, but not necessarily because I wanted to become a leader. It was because I just wanted to take on that challenge and make sure that we did a good job. But at the same time, be very clear on that part. And for anybody that is looking for leadership, being a leader doesn't mean telling people what to do. Being a leader is doing all the horrible things that needs to get done, making sure you support the people and give them all the tools that are necessary for them to succeed. That means myself included. If we're backed up in the warehouse, I'm back there shipping. Am I an owner of the company? Absolutely. And that's irrelevant. You're supposed to be the first one there, the last one to leave, and the hardest working person. To me, that's leadership. That's what being a leader is about. And I don't think you kind of get born into wanting to be that. I think you just kind of become that out of necessity. And it's really up to you whether or not you have the aptitude or desire to want to play that role. It is pretty rough, not gonna lie. So hopefully that answers your question.
And back to Troy, I know you talked a lot about, the need to find the right business idea. So how do you know when you are pursuing the right business idea?
Well, you can start by doing it and then see how it clicks. It really helps if you can do it in a way that doesn't, you're not going to bankrupt yourself by doing it, or worse, go out and borrow a bunch of money from people and then tell them, a period of time later that you just lost all their money. That's kind of horrible. But start doing it and you'll feel it after a while. I mean, just kind of run what you'd call like a prototype or something, and see if you can get any traction. And not just traction in market share or sales or whatever else you're gonna, metrics you're gonna qualify that with, but also how does it feel to you? I said don't run it all about passion, but there is a certain amount of, it feels right. I can do this, and I think the market will support it. And then ask some people, and don't ask just your friends. Ask somebody that may not like you all that much, or you just know that, my cousin, for example, he's a professional writer. So I wrote this book, the one, How to Launch Your Side Hustle, which originally, Stephen, by the way, you mentioned it twice, was called, the original title was The Necessity Entrepreneur. Because I was a software developer. Put me in a room and don't have me talk to humans. I understand computers. They are intelligent and logical and whatever you want to call a computer, but they're not humans. So I didn't understand humans very well. I kind of still don't, but love the computers, until out of necessity, I had to put on a tie and go sell this rather interesting software that I had written, because it's not going to sell. Like Steve Martin said, nothing happens until something is sold. That's true. Nothing's going to happen. So go out there and try it, but talk to a few people that you think might hold the opposite opinion of you, or aren't just going to fill you with, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Pet rocks. I mean, Stephen's right. Somebody sold pet rocks, so anything can be, if it's marketed right. And see if it'll go. I mean, yeah, your parents and your brothers and sisters might tell you something optimistic, but talk to whoever it is. Talk to your college professors. Talk to us. You have a great resource here that you can call on, any one of dozens of successful entrepreneurs, retired entrepreneurs, or active duty entrepreneurs that'll just tell you flat out, that's a horrible idea. Or I think you got a great idea, run with it. And use that resource. And Jay will tell you exactly how to do it with a lot of passion as well. Passion here is good. So get 12 opinions, but mostly listen to yourself and see if you feel like this has got wheels.
All right. And then just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand so I can call on you to unmute yourself. But our next question is for Stephen from our board member, Maribel.
Hi, Maribel, graphic design from the Department of Arts. Thank you so much. And graduation in 2020. I forgot to say that earlier. But my question is that when you find yourself having to do quick decisions, how do you trust your interests? Your instincts. And I kind of felt that you kind of talk about that, but I really want you to kind of answer that a little bit more thoroughly.
First off, yes, I always trust my instincts. I think the one thing that when you're youthful, you'll have a lot less of is confidence. as you kind of go through your career and just to make it blunt, get punched in the face over and over and over again from bad decisions, from I shouldn't have gone drinking with my friends, I shouldn't have made that investment, I haven't, whatever the case may be. The more you get punched in the face, the more you're going to trust your instincts, because you'll have a base level of experience that will tell you that this is the right decision. There's a fantastic book called Blink that talks about first impressions and first instincts. And I think the example was given is that there was this long lost piece of art that was discovered. And apparently it should have been destroyed or whatever. So they brought in, and I'm paraphrasing here, but 30 art critics, and half of them said it was real. And it went under all the tests that was possible to see if it was authentic. And half of them said it was real. And there was like a fourth of them that said, no, this is fake. I can't tell you why, but it's definitely fake, right? That is, I think, a visceral lizard brain instinct and evolutionary trait that we all have, that instinct of knowing that something's right or something's wrong. And for me, it took a long time to not completely just believe the data and run it off of that and sift through hours and hours of Excel sheets to make a decision, to the point where I go, yeah, I know this is going to work. Let's order that container. Let's get that inventory in here. It's going to be fine. And worst case scenario, I'll do this or that. I'll parlay it. So at this point, the Stephen today, absolutely, quick decisions is purely based on instinct. It's always backed by data, but that last little leap to say yes is based on instinct. And I think it's really important for all of you to go with it. Don't be afraid of trying something and failing. I think when we're young, we all are terrified of failure and doing the wrong thing and wasting time. Go with your instinct and go for it. And just as Troy had mentioned, let me preface that with one thing. As long as it doesn't financially bankrupt you, destroy you before you get a chance to get started, or is physically harmful or dangerous, those types of things, reconsider. But for the most part, try.
And going back to Troy, I know a topic that we've been discussing a lot during this Q&A is that you can't run your business, fully on passion. So what is your advice on kind of balancing that passion with your business idea?
Use as many experts as you can, and don't try to necessarily, although let's say you start a company and you are the only, anywhere from the janitor to the president to the developer to the operations, you are everything. So then you are the expert, but still get other experts. Whether you can't be an expert at everything, so you're gonna have somebody else do your taxes, somebody else draft up legal contracts, et cetera, et cetera. Use that expertise, rely on it. And if they tell you something like this is a bad idea, don't run with it. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying listen to it. Well, I am saying listen to it. I'm not necessarily saying you have to do what they say. So effectively, treat those professionals and friends and colleagues around you as your board of advisors, and ask their opinion. Watch a bunch of YouTube videos, something that's related, and just see if you can catch an idea or two. And then run with it and go with it. But know yourself and know your strengths and weaknesses, and be honest with yourself, so that when you look in the mirror, you're not just saying, I am the greatest at everything. But on the other hand, don't say that you're not good at anything either. So you know what you're good at, run with that, and then persevere.
Sounds great. And then for Stephen, we have another question from our board member, Sherry.
Hi, Stephen. I'm back. I'm Sherry, a marketing major and a third-year student at Cal State Fullerton. And I actually have two questions for you. And one would be, what was your biggest risk? And because I know that you talked about going through making decisions that the outcome wasn't what you expected, and there were some decisions that you made that were not good investments. So what was your biggest risk? And the second question is, I know a lot of people ask this to entrepreneurs, but should we work for corporate first for a few years or more before we jump into our own ventures? Because I know that some entrepreneurs say, just jump in if you have a good idea and start learning the hard way. And there are some entrepreneurs that told me personally, take the safe route, learn from really big corporations, and then go into entrepreneurship.
Let me start with your second question first. I think that probably is really, really important. The very annoying politicians, lawyers answer is it depends. It depends what you want. So, so me and my sister are hyper polar opposites. She's introverted, I'm extroverted. She works for Quest Diagnostics, big corporation. I'm on this side doing my own thing. It depends what you want to do. If by 25 you want to know that you have a career choice that is clearly carved out and you're you're risk averse and you don't want the stress and the headaches, there's nothing wrong with going the corporate route and eventually going into the entrepreneurship route. That's the safe answer that everybody will tell you. On my personal opinion, I think I just wanted to, I could do anything I wanted and fail until I just want to know what I was doing by 30. By 30, I felt like I just wanted to be stable to an extent, or at least feel that what I'm doing is going to lead to something, right? So I gave myself a plan. I started at 22, and then I said at 25, I would re-examine and make sure, or look myself in the mirror and go, you going the right way, man? Like, because you should really maybe consider redoing this. And I gave myself another timeline at 28. I said, at 28, I'm going to really look at myself again in the mirror and say, hey, is this the right path that I'm taking? If not, do I just go get a master's right now and go to go corporate because this is failing? I forgot the name. The guy that plays Don Draper in Mad Men, he was, I believe, 38 or 39 before he landed the role of Don Draper in Mad Men. He told himself by 40, if I don't get something, I'm out. And he landed that at 39. So it is never too late to try something. But the one thing that I really want to impress upon you is entrepreneurship will challenge you physically, emotionally, mentally, in every which way. It is a very specific type of lifestyle. You are, one of the best quotes I've ever heard is, you're going to trade your 40 hours a week for 80. That couldn't be more true. So if you want to do the entrepreneurship, from my personal perspective, I just wanted to make sure that 30, I knew what I was doing so I could begin a family and all that stuff. If you're on that same track, then I would say go for it. But I did start my career technically at 17, worked for 5 years and under different bosses, really experienced a lot of different things first before kind of making that jump. So that's one part. But I really want to make sure to, and this is probably the biggest risk for my career, is just like Troy, I jumped into something more than without fully understanding it. Starting a business, I was fortunate enough to have partners later on that kind of explained to me that this is going to be really rough. There's going to be a lot of times where it's going to punch you in the face and you're not going to want to get back up. And you have to have this perseverance and faith in yourself. And faith, I don't mean by religion necessarily. I am religious, but you don't have to be. You just have to have faith that as long as you keep chugging along and keep going, this will figure itself out and you'll be okay. You also have to be willing to risk and sacrifice everything. That's friendships, that's relationships. All these things become in play because you're pursuing something that maybe not everybody will understand. You might get into a lot of fights with your family and your parents. These are the types of risks that I think are massive, but you can mitigate all that if you're going to go to entrepreneurship by deciding for yourself what you value and what you want. And I don't mean just piles of money. Everybody wants piles and piles of money in private jets. I mean, what do you want in terms of what's your value proposition for your life? For me, it's control of my time and pursuits. I want to pursue what I'd like to pursue and try to find financial ways to make it happen, just because that's what I enjoy, is the pursuit. So for you, it's the same thing. If you value that, the pursuit of it, the challenge of it, and don't really care about money, you just really want to go for it and build a pyramid like a psychotic pharaoh, then go for it. Then you really have nothing to lose, right? On the flip side, if you want to be 26, 27 and think about you want to have kids and you have a stable relationship, nothing wrong with corporate life. You're probably going to be better off than I am in a couple of years because you won't have economic forces that'll punch you in the face all the time. But in terms of, I guess, so that was probably the biggest risk, was starting a business. But in terms of what has been the biggest risks that I've taken now, it's actually not one risk, it's a constant risk. It's I have a very capable team behind me and we work very well together and they're very, very capable in so many aspects, but me saying yes to things that I'm not entirely sure we could do. So we'll take on projects just for the sake of knowledge and learning that I think we're at 80%, we'll be able to pull it off. And that kind of leaping a little bit before before knowing you can do it is some of the risks that I take all the time. And if you go into entrepreneurship, that's par for the course. You're literally going to be taking risks all the time. So hopefully that answers. And what did I learn? When you feel uncomfortable and you're doing something new, you'd be surprised at how creative and clever you can become and what you can accomplish. I've run events, I've run campaigns, global campaigns that I was scared to death of. And somehow we always pull it off. We always do well. We always overcommit, undersell it, and then over-deliver it. And what I learned is, as long as you push the envelope at a sustainable amount, just a little bit, you'll understand that your limitations are maybe 5% further than you thought it was. And then that 5% becomes 105 to my new limit. Then it's 110, then 120, 130, 140, until you find that kind of pressure point limit. So yeah, long-winded answer, but that's what I've learned.
All right, thank you for that. That question seemed really important. So I also want to see if Troy wanted to add anything to what Stephen said on whether we should, or your advice on taking the corporate route versus, just jumping into entrepreneurship.
It depends. I mean, of course, Stephen's right there. It depends on, if you have a spouse, what your opportunities are. Maybe somebody comes along and hands you a scholarship. You say, well, I was going to do this, but boy, I have a scholarship to do that. So, or on the other hand, maybe you didn't get the scholarship you were hoping for, and now you have to go out. I'm okay with it either way. I did the corporate stuff for a while, and I'm very glad I did. But I did all sorts of little small entrepreneurial things all from elementary school on. So it's not like I didn't have a handle on it. And I knew maybe I'll be doing this for a few years, and then I'll go off and do my own show, which is what I ended up doing. The other thing, don't be afraid to try stuff, whether it's trying a corporate job or, I had a very fortunate because I did a lot of software development and custom computer consulting. So I could go on a 3 or 6 month project that wasn't going to be my long-term employer. So that's another opportunity as opposed to taking a job, because I think it's a little disingenuous to tell somebody, yes, I want to work for you, and they're thinking they want a career, and you say, no, I'm really, you don't tell them this, but I'm only going to be here for 6 months until I can go start my own business, and I'm just going to learn from you. Sometimes that works out. Sometimes 6 months later, you're still there. And then 6 years later, you're still there. Don't lose track of your dream if that's your dream. And don't be afraid to try other things, even while you're in college. I mean, for example, when I went to UC Davis, we only had 3 classes that were required at the university level. Everything else was required in your major, but not at the university level. When I went there was only 3 classes, and that was English, and you could test out of that. History, if you took AP history in high school, you get out of that. So the only class that I had to take at the university, I did not want to take. I was pre-med, I was science, and it was a group communication rhetoric class. And just like Sheldon Cooper that makes fun of all the social sciences, I was like, oh, you're going to put me in a group with social scientists? But I'm glad I did. That group communication was really invaluable. Being more of an introvert, I didn't go back and take immediate lead of a project. And one of the things that the teacher taught me there, she said, okay, take the test. And as with everybody that went to that university or everyone that goes to Cal State Fullerton, pretty much they did well in high school. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So they knew how to take a test and get a decent grade. So I took the test, and then the teacher said, the whole class took the test. The teacher said, okay, now take it again in groups, 7 or 8 or 9 students, and you decide which test you're going to take, which score. And at first I'm like, well, I'll take my own score. Why would I not? And then I thought like 2 seconds later, wait, no, I'll take the group score. And this teacher said she's been teaching that class for 25 years and never once has a student had their grade lowered by taking the group score. So that goes back into the group communication and I know you hate to hear this if you're a physicist, but the Sheldon Cooper approach is wrong. Yeah, he's a genius and everything, but contribute. Don't be an island and tire of yourself or stuck on yourself. Contribute. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. I used to tell, that's a John Donne poem, but I used to tell my employees that all the time. collaborate, communicate, and listen. I mean, it's just, but don't be afraid to try it either way. It's also, don't be pushed around by the wind and the waves. You can control your sails, but take the opportunity if it presents it, whether it's, here's a new opportunity to go into a new business venture, or to keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe if it's not working at McDonald's or something, step it up from there. But you could be working along and all of a sudden the company go out of business and you go, well, this is my opportunity, because out of necessity, it was thrust upon you. So don't be afraid to grab it and run with it, and trust yourself.
And with that, we will now be concluding the Q&A portion of this Meet the Executives event. Thank you all for your great advice, and we will now transition into the breakout room portion. Everyone will be split into 2 different groups, one with each executive, and then after about 20 minutes, we'll now switch the executives so that all students can have a chance to ask any other questions that they have for both executives.
Troy? Troy, you're muted because that's what happens whenever you leave the breakout room. You immediately get muted instantly.
Instantly muted. Hey, Jay, love the passion.
That was great stuff. Great. Wow. Great words of wisdom. That's some good stuff. Troy, we're going to get you on the TV show. We want to talk about this.
Nice.
Awesome. Now that everyone's back, I think we can go ahead. Oh, Jay, did you want to add anything else?
No. I don't want to distract. Go ahead and focus on the conversation.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, thank you guys all for coming to our Meet the Executives today. And a special thanks to Troy and Stephen for sharing all their wisdom and advice through all the experience that they've had. I just also wanted to plug our next Meet the Executives event on top leadership, where we have guest speakers such as Jessica Word, who is the president of Word and Brown General Agency, as well as Dean Stoecker, who is the chairman and CEO of AlterEX. Thank you guys again, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Oh, and Rozzy will also put the RSVP link to the next Meet the Executives in the chat, so make sure to check that out.
The few that also asked for my email address, I put it in the chat, so feel free to grab it from there.
Thank you.